Khan Yunis, this is the first field hospital to be set up since this war began. The Jordanian hospital consists of 2 wards, a casualty ward with 28 beds, 2 operating theatres, 4 intensive care beds, as well as pharmaceutical laboratories. It also contains outpatient clinics and patient assessment departments. The Israeli army released a video claiming that it has unearthed a factory to make weapons and unmanned aerial vehicles underneath a mosque in the Gaza city. Now, the army spokesperson has added that the soldiers also found a tunnel shaft at the mosque in the Zaitun neighborhood of Gaza city. The media agencies, however, were not able to verify the location or the date as to when this video was filmed. The Israeli military has also released a video showing strikes on buildings in Lebanon that it claimed were linked to the Hezbollah group. The Israeli army's Telegram account has said that they launched these attacks with fighter jets, tanks and also helicopters on the Hezbollah infrastructure. The images that are being put out by the Israelis show extensive damage at the location. At least about 28 premature babies were transferred from Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital to Egypt for urgent medical treatment. 4 mothers and 6 nurses accompanied the babies who were being treated at 2 hospitals in Egypt. Several babies had died after their incubators were reportedly damaged during an Israeli military attack. And according to the World Health Organization, all the evacuated babies are fighting serious infections. The Israeli forces, remember, had stormed the Al-Shifa hospital last week, claiming that it had the command center of the Hamas underneath it. Hundreds of patients, medical staff and people, thousands of people, had to leave Al-Shifa over the weekend. Doctors stated that they had been evicted by force by the Israeli troops and the Al-Shifa hospital was no longer able to function as a hospital. Relatives of some of the 240 hostages held in the Gaza Strip have urged the Israeli government not to pursue a bill to make capital punishment easy for the captured Hamas fighters. The relatives have argued that even the talk of a death penalty could endanger the lives of the hostages. Some of the relatives have said that the publicity around capital punishment could have catastrophic consequences. Some right-wing politicians have objected to these statements. And Israel's Justice Ministry has formed a task force on how to try the Hamas militants captured during the 7th of October attack. And families of Israeli children held hostage by Hamas in Gaza demanded their release on World Children's Day during a protest outside the United Nations Children's Fund in Tel Aviv. The demonstrators held Israeli flags, portraits of the children and also stuffed toys at the rally, shortly before a meeting with Israel's war cabinet. And this comes ahead of a possible hostage deal in the offing. The first group of 26 Bosnians and their Palestinian relatives who were stuck in Gaza landed in the Bosnian capital of Sarajevo on Monday. The evacuees underwent extensive medical checkups at the airport before they were reunited with their anxious families and friends. Officials said that those without relatives in Bosnia will be accommodated in a refugee center. The evacuees said that the situation in the Gaza Strip is getting worse by the hour. The Yemen-based Houti rebels have released a video showing their forces seizing the cargo ship Galaxy Leader This comes a day after the group claimed the seizure of the cargo ship in the southern Red Sea. The video shows armed Houthis on a speedboat watching and following the cargo ship that is believed to belong to an Israeli businessman. Another team is controlling the bridge and the crew after boarding the ship from a helicopter. The video showed the ship sailing in a direction supervised by the Houthi forces from both air and sea. The Houthi forces said that all crew on the ship are being treated humanely and the ship is currently anchored off the coast of Yemen. However, they did not disclose the ship's whereabouts or information about the crew. The American Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced $100 million in military aid to Ukraine during an unannounced visit to Kiev. This is in line with the American pledge to provide long-term support for the Ukrainian war amidst growing concerns about the sustainability of such aid. Austin, accompanied by the top US general in Europe, was photographed smiling and shaking hands with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. It was Austin's first visit to Kiev since April 2022. Zelensky called the visit a very important signal for Ukraine. The United States has provided over $44 billion in terms of security assistance to Ukraine since Russia launched its invasion in February 2022. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said that they are looking at a more permanent increase in troops in the Western Balkans. These comments were in response to a September skirmish between the police and armed Serbs that had turned a quiet North Kosovo village into a war zone. The gun battle had prompted international concerns over stability in Kosovo, and Milan Radojcic, the vice president of the Serb List party, admitted to taking part in the skirmishes. Detained in Serbia's capital Belgrade, he was released from detention by the Serbian High Court in October. And authorities in Kosovo are now demanding for his extradition. The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz hosted leaders of the 13 Compact with Africa countries at Berlin's Chancellery for a second working session. Olaf Scholz encouraged the African nations to proceed with the African Free Trade Area, which he said will contribute towards stronger growth on the continent. The African Continental Free Trade Area aims to bring together 1.3 billion people in a $3.4 trillion economic bloc. And this will be the largest free trade area since the establishment of the World Trade Organization. The Compact with Africa was created in 2017 under the German G20 presidency. And this group aims to bring together African nations, international organizations, and bilateral partners to coordinate developmental agendas and to discuss investment opportunities. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is in Britain for a state visit, hoping to boost economic ties and security partnerships. And this comes as South Korea is facing what it sees as growing danger from a nuclear-armed North Korea. Yoon's four-day trip will be the first state visit hosted by Britain since the coronation of King Charles. During an interview, Yoon said that the wars in Ukraine and in Gaza, coupled with growing Russia and North Korea ties and tensions in South China Sea, had compelled him to seek very close security cooperation with the West. Yoon is set to hold talks with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and to adopt an accord on expanding a bilateral partnership. Albania's opposition Democrat Party members set off smoke and lit a small fire in the middle of the parliament in a failed bid to stop the chamber from voting on the 2024 budget. Now, the MPs piled chairs in the center of the chamber as red, green and purple smoke filled the air, while security kept protesters back from the seat of Prime Minister Edi Rama. The leader of the opposition party, Salih Berisha, accused the government of trying to silence the opposition in parliament, where Rama's Socialist Party has a majority. But last month, the prosecutors have charged Berisha and his son-in-law with corruption over a land deal involving a sports club. The Berisha has accused Rama of orchestrating the prosecution against him. Rama, however, has denied the accusations. India and Australia on Monday held a 2+2 ministerial dialogue. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met with Australian Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles and Foreign Minister Penny Wong in New Delhi. The two Quad partners are ramping up defence ties and boosting overall strategic partnership. The Indian Defence Minister said that expanding the Indo-Australian partnership will not only benefit both nations but the entire Indo-Pacific region. Meanwhile, Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong has also underscored India as a central nation in the region. The meeting is held every 2 years to discuss strategic issues in a 2+2 format, with the first ministerial 2+2 being held in New Delhi in 2021. Rescue workers are engaged in a race against time to bring out 41 workers trapped in a tunnel in India's Uttarakhand state. It's been 10 days since the under-construction tunnel collapsed, trapping the workers. In a major development, the first visuals of the trapped workers were recorded through a camera that was sent inside the tunnel through a 6-inch pipe. Earlier, the trapped workers were only able to speak to a government official. The workers have reported that though they are getting food, they are in a pretty bad shape. Pakistan is facing the prospect of more economic trouble. The American lawmakers are now calling for an halt to aid till Islamabad makes changes in its constitution. 11 American lawmakers have written to the American Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, seeking steps by Pakistan to improve its human rights record. The letter said that the United States aid should be stopped till Pakistan reverses the changes to its blasphemy laws and also ensures free and fair elections. Now, the US lawmakers said that Pakistan should address these critical issues before it expects more financial aid from America. Bangladesh's authorities have reportedly convicted 139 activists and officials of the opposition over the last 2 days. Now, the convicted people were sentenced to jail from 6 months to 3.5 years for staging protests, violence and arson. Now, the crackdown on dissent and protests has come ahead of elections scheduled for the 7th of January next year. And Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government is looking for another term. Now, the opposition BNP has called the arrests as politically motivated. Since 2022, the BNP has staged large-scale agitations, protest marches and nationwide blockades, demanding Prime Minister Hasina's resignation to ensure free and fair elections. Now, at least one person was killed and 3 others were left injured in a shooting at a Walmart shop in Ohio. Now, the injured are reportedly being treated at a nearby trauma center. The local police said that they responded to the shooting and that there was no longer any threat to the public. It is not known as to what led to the shooting, as the police are yet to release any details about the shooter or the victims. The crews are working to build a wall to divert lava flows around a geothermal power plant close to Grindavik in southwestern Iceland. If an eruption were to happen, the wall would divert lava flows around the Svartsengi geothermal power plant, located over 6 kilometers from Grindavik. The plant supplies power to much of the area, including the nearby Blue Lagoon geothermal spa, one of Iceland's main tourist attractions. On the 10th of November, seismic activity and underground lava flows intensified on the Reykjanes Peninsula near the capital Reykjavik. Now, the town is now deserted apart from search and rescue staff who are picking up belongings from houses and inspecting the damaged buildings. The smog-clad Yamuna River in Delhi continues to be polluted with toxic foam floating over its surface. The foam on the Yamuna comes from sludge and untreated waste. The sight of the foam-covered Yamuna River comes amidst the Indian capital's annual battle on polluted skies. The smoke and ash cloud blanketed the sky in Papua New Guinea a day after a volcano erupted on the country's northeastern island of New Britain. A large volcanic ash cloud took over Mount Ulawun and the surrounding areas. Papua New Guinea is on the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is a horseshoe-shaped band of volcanoes and fault lines circling the edges of the Pacific Ocean. Citigroup CEO Jane Fraser has unveiled a sweeping reorganization marking the largest overhaul in decades. The restructuring involves reducing management layers, eliminating 60 committees and also cutting functional roles. The thousands of layoffs are anticipated, particularly in compliance, risk management and overlapping technology functions. The restructuring aims to align the firm's structure with its strategy. Final announcements are expected early next year. The Chinese hybrid vehicles are gaining prominence, outpacing global competitors faced with slowing EV demand. Chinese brands are engaging in a fierce price war, attracting consumers with long-range hybrid costing less than traditional cars. This trend offers a lifeline of multi-pronged electrification strategies by global giants like Toyota and Honda. With hybrids often priced lower than gasoline cars in China, foreign automakers are facing a growing threat as Chinese brands, buoyed by their position as the world's lowest cost EV manufacturers, are eyeing the international markets. In a landmark poll of industry and academic experts, China is projected to meet its ambitious goal of peaking carbon dioxide emissions before 2030. With over 70% of the respondents expressing confidence in this achievement. However, concerns linger over the potential height of this peak, with expectations of at least a 15% rise compared to the 2020 levels, as China continues approving new coal-fired power stations to meet growing energy demands. Doubts persist about the nation's ability to balance economic growth and environmental commitments.